Welcome, everybody, to today's Lunch and Learn. I'll be your host, Jared. If you have any questions regarding decisions or want to know how to perform something in the tool, feel free to ask, and I'll answer it to the best of my ability. And we'll be able to kind of hopefully get you unblocked with what you're struggling with. So that's our goal for today. So that's what we're here to do. So feel free to type your question in the chat. I'll have it open and I'll be able to view it and answer it via chat. Or if it's something that you need a little bit more capability to talk about it, we can put you off mute. A couple of things to talk about is we do have our decisions marketplace. This is where you can see all of the different um, applications and all of the different aspects that we've created inside of the decisions marketplace. So if you want to use them as training collateral, they are there for that. We also have a decisions YouTube channel. So if you want to be able to ask or learn different things from the YouTube channel. We just released 2 new videos over external truth tables and the list mapping step. So those are some new videos that we have. So feel free to go ahead and navigate to them and watch them. They were just released about an hour ago. So there'd be some good. There would be some good videos to learn from external truth tables and list mapping step if you're ever curious on how to use those. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and let's start off with questions. And let's see, we already got one in the chat. So let's go ahead and let's answer this. All right, one from Umar. I'm using a suggestion list vehicle type. I need to use a string or compare string equals to compare the values, input flow ID or other constant. So let me take you off of mute, Umar, and if you can give me some little more context of what you're trying to do.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. So basically the problem is, let's say, as I mentioned, like that vehicle type is just an example so that we can discuss further. So
Sure.
I have like two values there, like any two, like, let's say truck and car, whatever it is. And then
Mm-hmm.
I have one flow. In that one flow, I'm actually passing that value from a caller flow, right? I'm actually using the suggestion list there. I'm passing it fine. That's okay. Now in my actual flow, I
Mm-hmm.
want to have a certain logic saying that, okay, if my car equal to, or if my vehicle type equal to truck, then go
Mm-hmm.
here. Let's say that's what my requirement is. But
Okay.
there is no way, at least in my like knowledge, where I can use it with the constant properly. The only way that I can do is like again like hard coding it in the flow, because the string equals is having the parameter type names as value 1 and value 2.
So you're using a suggestion value or just a valueless data structure or
I'm using a suggestion list, which is nothing but a list of strings.
okay, so you're just okay, I gotcha. So let's say suggestion list test, and then we'll say list
Are you sharing your
sure
screen?
test stuff. I'm about to in 1 second,
Okay.
but I just wanted to get that project made. All right,
Okay.
so we got that part.
Hmm.
All right, so let me create a flow because like that's where you're at. This is test flow.
Okay.
And we're just gonna do create data. And we got a constant. This is text or a vehicle type if you want to use that example. And then what we have here is you attach this. You said, hey, attach list of values. So this is going to
So
be
let's say
the
you have a predefined list, and just have like car and truck there.
yeah, car. If I could spell it, car, truck. Yep, defined.
Yep. So now
Uh,
the thing is, now in my test flow, the vehicle type as a string is coming from the input to the flow,
okay,
not
I
as
see.
a
So you
create
put it
data.
here. I got you. So you just have it here.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I gotcha. And so, okay, what's the objective that you're trying to do with it?
So what I'm doing is, let's say in case of car, let's say I want to do something, and in case of truck, I want to do something else. So in my flow, I only want to like process when car vehicle type is equal to car. If it is stuck, then I just want to, end the flow. Let's say that is what my requirement is.
Okay, so you just want to just, okay, that seems pretty simple enough. So let's see, I'm gonna go to a constant, let's see, constant, and then we say vehicle type, car, truck, define. And let's say, okay, car, truck, done. And
Okay, so
then,
now let's say you have got it. Now just
mhm,
need to have that string comparison that in case of car, do something else, and in case of truck, let's end it.
okay, put this in here. So stuff will be it, and then equal to, was it car? I said if true,
Yeah,
let's
so
say
that this is where the
placeholder.
problem is. You have to again hard code car.
Or you have to again hard code it. I mean, you could attach the vehicle type right here and
But
say pick.
if I do it, then if you go back to the vehicle type definition, it would have added value 2 there as a key also.
Value 2 as a key also.
Yeah, I'll show you.
So like I can debug. I talk about where here it doesn't run it.
No, 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 no. 1 minute. Just keep like this is fine. Now go back to the suggestion list definition.
Uh-huh. Sure.
Uh, yeah, not here in the actual definition of the suggestion list.
And the actual definition of this, you're talking like which part?
No,
Like
no.
right
Yeah, come.
here.
I'll tell you. Come out of the flow.
Okay.
Yeah, go to the designer mode.
Okay.
Yeah, here click on manage and yeah, configuration,
Yep.
variables, suggestion lists.
Mm-hmm.
Click on vehicle type.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So look at that property matches. So now it is also looking for value 2, which is wrong. I don't want to like bind it to value 2. This is where the
Uh,
problem is.
you don't. So okay, so I'm kind of understanding. You want to, but you don't want to use it.
So the thing is, generally speaking, based on my understanding, the way the suggestion list works is like you define the list of property names. Whenever you
Mm-hmm.
get one of those property names, it will auto bind it, right? And it works like that. It works perfectly like that. However,
Correct.
when I pass that as a parameter, and then if I just want to compare that to the existing one, there is no way I can use it because of the parameter names value 1 and value 2.
What are you? Because of the are you? Is it be? I guess I'm trying to. Maybe I'm a little confused. Are you trying to? You just
See
don't
the
want
thing.
it.
Mhm. So the way suggestion list works is that your
Mm-hmm.
property name needs to match based on whatever
Correct.
you may have defined in your list of property names while defining your suggestion list, right? That's how it works.
Correct.
So
Mm-hmm.
now, because it is not working in the string equals by default, is because look at the parameter names, value 1 and value 2. So because the parameter names are value 1 and value 2, it is not able to understand that I need to auto bind the stuff value here, even though the stuff is already there, the name of the param in the input to the flow.
So okay, so what if I? So it's just let's see. I don't want to add a new one. Can I remove unhook? So I unhook this. That should refresh
Yeah,
this if I refresh it, and then now vehicle type doesn't have it there.
yeah.
And so property matches vehicle type, and you get the values there. So I mean, what you could do then is instead of using a default rule, I thought it was on. Where's the other one? Yeah, I thought it was the stuff. Okay, so let's say I have stuff.
Hmm.
Right. So you could create a, I mean, this is, I mean, you won't be able to use the default rules that way because those properties are already defined, but you can run
Yeah.
your own rule and you can create a new rule. And if
Okay, let's
I,
see.
for example, name the statement rule, let's say stuff equals, right, poor name.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I can name this one the same name, stuff.
Hmm.
And then I'm assuming because it's the name to the same property, and let's just imagine it doesn't equals, right? I'm just gonna close,
Oh,
save this.
okay. So every time like we'll have to create one for this, a brand new rule will have to be created for this, right? For everything that we do. And then the
Well,
problem is, the
I don't think
one
it's
of
gonna
the
work. Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
it would work. It would work. The problem here is like there are two things that I see which is a problem here. One
Uh,
is like earlier, whatever was the comparison I could see directly on the right hand side, right? That okay, this
uh-huh,
is what I was comparing. Now I'll have to create a rule every time whenever I want to do one comparison. It could be for different type of suggestion lists also, right?
uh-huh. Correct. Yeah, yeah. No, you're totally right. I think you would get the functionality, but the scalability will be weird because then you'd have to
Yes.
apply it to
And
those
it won't
different
be
areas.
like visually also it won't be good because in case of the default rules, I get
Mm-hmm.
to see whatever is happening on the right hand side, right? But in case of this one, the actual implementation is like hidden inside the rule itself. So I'll have to
Mm-hmm.
open the rule and then see what is going on.
Right, right. Isn't that what the value list is for? There's a data
Uh,
structure we have called value list.
I know the value list has its own set of problems. So the issue with the value list is, you cannot have like the special characters and whatnot, and it is basically a replacement of enum, right, in C sharp.
Yeah,
So
correct.
and the problem is like one of the major problems of value list is if you have any of the special characters inside it, it will crash. The other
True.
thing is, like when you serialize your, I mean, let's say you have used a value list and you use one of the
Mm-hmm.
keys of the value list and now you are getting the output, the serialized output. So when you get the serialized output, it will convert that into a number
Mm-hmm.
because it is actually behaving like an enum, and there was no way, by the time I had checked it, for you to override its behavior to say that okay, in my case, this enum always consider this as a string and not as an integer.
Doesn't know.
So
I gotcha. Okay.
yeah, so yeah, I mean that has its own problems. Instead of that,
Mm-hmm.
actually, suggestion list is way better. Only this
Okay.
problem is there with the suggestion list. If there is a way by which you can see what you did, right? Like hooking it. If we can somehow hook it there within the flow without actually adding the property key, that would be perfect. So that here itself, instead of hard coding
Mm-hmm.
it, I would just select it from there, and if it should consider that as a plain text string internally, that would be the perfect solution for this.
Gotcha. I'll write that down. Hard coding it instead of hard coding it.
Yeah, because right now, there is no way for us to like use it. And one more similar question I have. So, in case of the string match step,
Mm-hmm.
also we have a similar problem. Like, is there a way by which I can use a string match step with the existing suggestion list, like possible matches? Can I like, bind the possible matches from the suggestion list?
I gotcha. That's not possible. Because the step is primarily designed just to be like if you type, path one, right? Path
Hmm.
two, and then it looks for that exact path
Okay.
for it, and that's what it runs. Now, what you could do, and this is a great kind of plugin for the external truth table, is if you have some type of data source to pull, like where things should route, like depending on, hey, if this is a truck, right, then it will route to another location. If it's car and it routes to another location. Now, the cool thing with the external truth table, if it's sourced by something dynamic, let's say next week oh, we need to talk about luxury cars, right? And then you
Hmm.
add luxury, it will automatically appear in that external truth table because it's externally sourced by some other, like a lookup table. It could be something like an Excel file. There's a lot of things that you can source it. So that's how we would handle like
Yeah.
those type of more dynamic
True, but
mapping.
in our case, Jared, actually,
Hmm.
our so like the definition of that list is predefined. It's
Hmm.
rarely that we add like one value dynamically. So
Hmm.
considering that like the truth table in this case is not like suitable for our situation. However, if you could probably find a way or maybe let me know, is there a way by which actually using the same suggestion list I can mimic it the same way as the string match works, where it gives me like different paths and I can connect one of those paths. Is there a way or there is no way right now?
I mean, you could do it. It may not be as visual, but there's a couple things you could do. You could do a thing like we call runtime selection. So let's say I have I'm just gonna delete this, but let's say I have some data that comes in, right? I got data that comes in, and I want to
Hmm.
route it to a certain location. What you can do is we can create a truth table, And let me run it this way. And then I can tell it to run certain flows. So I can say, hey, I'm going to go ahead, let me pick a really quick one.
Oh
We'll see.
yeah, I understand what you're saying. It was there
Exactly.
in the initial training sessions.
Exactly, yeah. And so all I have to do is pick and say, hey, I want to run. I'm gonna make
Hmm.
this a text just so you could just kind of see visually. This is not how you set it up, but I can say, hey, if I output this one, then run flow, right? This would be run flow
Oh
one, and
yeah,
and
but
right,
it won't
run.
be that visual, right?
It won't be. It would be
It
IDs,
wo-
and you can source this dynamically because if you know you've tied something right, like hey, I have this data, like for cars I'm always going to run this process, for trucks I'm always going to run this process, then you can easily say, okay, if one of these two data things run, then I'm going to go ahead and we'll just connect this to the end, and then what I'll
Hmm.
do is I'll run the flow, not fun flow, that's
No
fun,
worries.
yeah, fun
Yeah.
flow. You can run the flow here, and then I could say, okay, I want to get this information dynamically, and say,
Yeah.
okay, on a runtime selection, hey, run flow one, right, and then it will run flow one. If I want it to run flow two, then if it's truck, then it will run flow two. So that's how you get the dynamic way out of
Hmm.
it. I'm for it. Um, but yeah, you can
Okay.
also do um, I mean, if you do any normal statement rule, you'll always get two paths. If you know you're only going to have two paths, you can just say,
Hmm.
hey, for this data, evaluate the statement rule. And let me open up that one, run rule. Well, let me just create a real quick one. You can define, and this is test different output.
Hmm. Okay.
You can define different outputs. So instead of saying, hey, whatever the data is, we're going to evaluate something and it's going to be contain something, right?
Hmm.
Then I could say, hey, if this thing runs true, I want to output data. And I want to say it's going to be a new output data. And this is going to be vehicle,
Hmm.
vehicle type, right? And then I could say, okay, if it outputs true, it's car. If it's
Hmm.
false, I want it to output the vehicle, and this is going to be truck, right?
Hmm.
And so then you have this custom rule that you already created, and depending on what happens, it will always output that specific information. So because I think my rule does have an S in it, when you debug it, right, and I look at the output data, you will get your vehicle type car, and then also
Hmm.
the Boolean value there. So that's kind of a way you could handle that. I think we have some YouTube video content over that I can definitely
True, but it is
share.
still like, I mean, we are able to achieve like whatever I asked in a way right now, but it won't still work as a string match step where you have multiple outputs coming from the same flow, and visually in a single way like what exactly is going on. So right now, without the
I
hard
see.
coding, we don't have a way to like re-get the data from the existing suggestion list and somehow dump that into the possible outputs.
Hmm. I see what you're saying. So your desire is that you do have that visual representation of it and not a single path.
Yes, yeah, that's
I
true.
see.
That's what actually we are looking for.
I
So we are
gotcha.
able to get it by manually like copy pasting the values, obviously, because then
Sure.
it would show them. But our idea was to like not do the copy pasting again. So again, it is related to both of my questions are related to suggestion list that we are using them heavily. Earlier we
Hmm.
were using value list and it caused a lot of problems.
Okay.
So gradually now moving away from value list and using the suggestion list. It works perfectly fine in almost all the scenarios except two, three that I mentioned.
What's the use case? I understand why this is not desirable because the visuality, but what's the use case why the I can't talk. The visual aspect is desired. I just want to understand.
So the thing is let's consider this scenario, right? So right now we are three developers who are working on this, right?
Hmm.
And we have been working with decisions since months now, so we know like how
Sure.
it works and whatnot. Let's say tomorrow one new person joins or one of the member from the other team starts working on the decisions. So if you just look at the workflow visually, okay, if the value is car, it is like going here, and it is and because we have also made sure that the name of the steps and all are more self-explanatory also. So by just looking, it is like similar to having a database design uh, like
Hmm.
screenshot where which table is connected to what. by naming the steps and all correctly, we get the flow idea itself by just looking at it rather than going to the internal flows and see what is going on. That's what the idea behind it is. That's why we are trying to avoid all these logics which are hidden inside the rules and all.
Sure, I see. Because
So
I
the new
gotcha.
person joining should have the exact idea. Okay, this is what the flow is, and then we can change the code. That's not a problem.
I gotcha. Okay, I see. Then I'm wondering if have you tried let's see, not data extensions. Done lookup lists at all?
And that's a totally different thing. It's, I think,
It
related
is.
to DBs, yeah, backends and all. Our case is like, it's not the DB hookup right now. We know the predefined values. That's why we are using the suggestion list.
Okay, I gotcha. Because I know what this one is, you can say, hey, I just want to output like a specific, data pair, or you can even output your own object of like,
But
hey,
how would that be different from the suggestion list in our use case?
so what you could do is maybe we can walk through. So I can call this vehicle type
Okay.
right here. And then if I know, like, I always want to evaluate car or truck,
Mm-hmm.
or then all I have to do is you can just say, hey, create data step. Um, it defines it here, and then I can say, okay, this is going to be what is it? Yeah, vehicle. We'll say is vehicle type. We'll say is list, and then let me set the constants to here to be car and truck,
Okay.
and then done. Right, and then I think what should happen is then I just output it here, right? You can output anything because it's an object.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go ahead and save this, and let me go back into that flow right here. One of the things now I have in my data explorer is I have vehicle type, and then I
Okay.
have the list first and last, and it would be truck or car. And so I could say, hey, vehicle type this. And so you can even parameterize it, just say, hey, instead of vehicle type, I just have car string, or I just have truck string. And then you can populate your data
Like, how
explorer
do I
with the
use
values.
it?
Same way you use anything else. So if I wanted to use it, I could say, hey, if I want to use the string,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Let's say string equals, right?
yep, exactly. We're gonna go string equals. So if I want to go to string equals,
Mm-hmm.
all right, I could just go to flow data, grab it there, go to my vehicle type, and then it shows you there that the first is the car and the last is the truck. I can say, hey, I want is
Okay.
it truck, and then boom, and then I can whatever other data I need to
Oh, okay.
need a map for. So
Hmm.
that may I know it doesn't do it's still it's more visual than the runtime selection, but it's still not as visual as like the string
Yeah.
match steps.
If we can
So
somehow allow the hooking of the existing suggestion list without actually mapping the property name, like instead of pushing the value one there, if we can just allow it to hook it itself without any like
oh, I see what you're
modification
saying.
in the, then it would work perfectly because then it would just convert the text box into drop down, and that's exactly what I want.
I got you. Okay, so that's the objective is you don't want people to have to mess with the map. You just want, hey, pick the
Yeah,
value and that's it. I
yeah,
got you.
that's
Okay.
true. That's true. That's what I want.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah, let me put your email in the chat. I'll ask questions about and could you like if you can write your suggestion of what this
Where
no,
do
no
I
pun
write it?
intended.
No, no,
Email
that's
me.
fine.
Yeah,
Okay,
let me type my email address in the
okay,
chat, jared at
okay,
decisions.com. And then I can, talk with
okay.
some of the core devs here, and we can see what we can do about changing that or the limitations thereof. All right, all right. I'm gonna move on to the next question.
Okay, I'm dropping off now.
Suggestion:
Thank you.
is there a good way to make a calendar that can display events on it? Yeah. So I'm gonna put you off mute, Justin. There is a way you can display a calendar inside of decisions. It's through report views. Are you familiar with that, or is there something else you're thinking of?
I'm not familiar with report viewing for a calendar.
Perfect. Love it. All right, cool. So I'm going to show you. I'll put in a video in the chat. There's a great video I did over it that goes over this. And so I'll send you that video, but then I'm also going to demonstrate to you live so you get to see it and we can talk through it. Let's see. I think I called it like report views. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yep, we got it. All right. So here is the YouTube video. I put it in the chat. And then I'll just use this one. So cool stuff we can do is I'm going to create a report, and this is going to be my report over accounts. So if you ever are in the scenario where you're like, hey, I want to know different ways to look up my data because different views will often give different insights that you're making decisions on. In that regard, that's going to that should trigger your mind to say, okay, let me look at decisions report views. Let's say this is have testing report views. And what report views allow you to do is it allows you to orient it differently, pretty much. And so if I'm going to go ahead, let's use the account data source because you'll have it. Are you using version 9 or version 8?
Sorry,
Do you know just
confirm MS.
yeah, no worries.
Version 9.
Version 9. Okay, perfect. Because then what I'll do is I'll create this and I'll export it and send you an email with this project so you can take a look at it. So essentially what this is I can create a couple of different views here. I'm going to go ahead, grab the entity name, and I'm going to have the created on and created by. So created by and created on. So those are going to be my 3 fields. Now the cool thing that we can do here is, let's see, no accounts created on different days. Oh, that's unfortunate. Is now all the way to the right, I have this thing called views. And if I want to go ahead and change the view how I look at data, I can say, hey, I want to look at it via matrix area. And I can add different dimensions. I want to add, let's say, a field, and I want to know not the account ID, but I want to know the created by, right, as that field. So I can see that, hey, system created 4 accounts and admetdecisions.com created 3 accounts. If I want to add a date and I want to say what's the year that these accounts were created or the month or the week, I can go ahead and add those things as well. And I don't want the archive date. I want the created on date. And so I can see by saving this that, okay, we got 4 accounts created in January by system. We have 2 accounts created by admitdecisions.com in January and 1 in April. So that's one view. But let's say I want the calendar view. So then what you can do is you can go ahead and we have one view over here called the calendar view, going back to your specific question here. What this allows us to do is it looks a little deceptive because it pops up with this weird merge plain text editor. But what this is asking you to do is it's saying, hey, what's the text you want displayed on that calendar? So you could think like, hey, if this is a dentist appointment office, right? You might want to say, hey, I want the email address of the person and then the type of appointment, let's say. And you could say, hey, for this case, I want to know is I want the email address of this account. And then I'm going to put a hyphen just so you can see that there's some spacing in between it. And then I'm going to say if it's what's the status or what's the type. We have type fields. Yeah, and I want to know the user type. So that's going to be what's going to be displayed on that calendar view. Now, what I can do is as I click on that calendar view, in order to configure it, there's going to be this settings thing right here. And in this settings, I'm sorry, not settings, there's a calendar view option right here. Now we can click on this calendar view and by default, it selects the archive date just because it's the first date alphabetically, but typically this isn't going to give you helpful results. You'll want to change this to be whatever your data is, whether it be created on date, whether it be deleted on, whether it be something that's more impactful for your business use case. In my business use case, for the sake of this example, I'm going to set it to created on date because I want to see when these accounts were created and see a kind of a calendar view of those specific elements. Max number of events in Excel just shows you how many items will be in that specific like a day, right? So if it's June 17th, the max number of events will be 5 in June 17th, kind of square block in the calendar. If I want to make it 10, you can make it 10, and you could increase this however time you need it. You can also specify the timeline of the calendar, and you could say, hey, I want the start date to be from the created on date, and then you can do another version of that if you want to specify it, or you can just leave it unchecked. You can also select different providers for the calendar if you want it to be created on date or multiple different options. You have that option there. All right, I got this setting right here. Let's kind of see what it looks like. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and run this. And as I run this to test it and debug it, you'll hit the play button, but you'll notice that I'm just in the normal data view. To actually change it to see what it should look like, you have to click on these 3 vertical dots over here and you can change the view. So I'm going to go ahead and click this here to see the calendar. And what you can see here is you can see all of the different options that I have here. Now, because I don't have any accounts created in June, that's why you don't see anything inside of here. But what I can do is I can say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and go to the left. And now you can see, hey, this one account was created on April 17th, and it has the email address and the type of account. It's a person account, not a system user, not a service account. And if I go even farther back to January, you'll see that I have even more accounts created here with different types. And so that's what the calendar view allows you to do is you can display more values in here. You can even click into that to see the data view of that particular item. There's also different subset views within inside of the calendar where you can have a day where I just want to look at that particular day and the timing. I want to look at the particular list. So I can see, okay, this account was created at 8:52 a.m. and I can see those values there. So I can go to that specific day in January and say, oh wow, look, 9 a.m. That's where the system account was. Let me go to, where's the other one? I want to see more. Let's go to Wednesday. Yeah, you can see right here, the external system and the service account created similarly. And then you have the admin account there. So that's some of the options you have to display the calendar views here for the different pieces of data that you have for it. So that's creating it. Now the question becomes, what if I want a dashboard to place this on? How do I place this on a dashboard? Right. And specific what we'll do is let me create a really quick folder. This is going to be my calendar folder. And then I will go ahead and let's create just a really quick page. I'll say this is a page. I'll say this is display my calendar. Is it calendar? Calendar. I think it's calendar. I always have to say it funny because I always misspell it. I think that's right. Then what I'm going to do is I will drag over the report viewer control on this. I just threw it off. Drag over this report view control on my grid here. And then I can say, okay, I want to run that report that has my calendar view, right? But if I preview this, you'll see that one, it just defaults to the data view. So to actually get your dashboard to default to this, you will actually need to change the view mode. And what you would do is you would just say, hey, I want to, uncheck all of them. And I just want to say, I want just the calendar view to be displayed here. And then if I save this, then what you'll see here is now I have my calendar view displayed instead of the data view. And we can make this really interesting where you can say, hey, I want to have a button here that says book new event, right? Or book new time for a dental office or a doctor's office, right? And so I can say, hey, I actually want to run my flow. And so I'm going to grab my test flow. Imagine that it's not a test flow. Imagine that it's book new appointment, right? And so let's say I have this process that says book new appointment. That's what my page does, right? And oh, that's just the display. Oh, not that one. That's just the. Oh yeah, that's the one I want. There you go. It just confused me. And so now when I look at my calendar, I have my flow. Hey, book a new appointment. It's going to run. Obviously, this thing breaks because it's an incomplete flow. But then I can easily see the calendar data here for my specific process, right? For it. So that's kind of the calendar view in a nutshell and how you would use it. Any questions or additional comments you'd like to add, Justin?
No, that was actually exactly what I was looking for.
Okay, perfect. If you can put your email in the chat, I'll go ahead and export this project to you. So if you just want to see like what I did to make this project, you can have it. The export project download. I mean, it's going to be named a little weird. It's going to be named suggestion list, but I'll rename it so that it's something more interesting. Calendar test. Perfect. All right, can I actually upload this document from my computer? I want to see if I can upload it. Or we're gonna go fancy. I'm gonna see if I can upload it in Zoom. All right, I uploaded that thing in Zoom. Can you download it, Justin?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, cool. There you go. So that's your example calendar. All right, awesome. Any other questions for today? All right, I don't see any other questions, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for attending. Tomorrow, we'll have Jeremy Litwidowitz run the Lunch and Learn. And then there will be no Lunch and Learn on June 19th because that will be a holiday for decisions. So there will be no Lunch and Learn on Thursday, but Wednesday we'll have Jeremy run that Lunch and Learn so you can prepare questions for him that he'll be able to answer. So, all right. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you guys next time.